Okay, before we see some live examples, I want to show you something. So price is moving in an uptrend in this scenario, creating series of higher highs and higher lows, breaking structures, creating inefficient movements, and respecting demand zones. So after the last demand zone, so this one has been respected, price created a huge inefficient movement to the upside, broke structure, let's say swept some liquidity from this region, and created this really valuable demand zone because it has all the three criterias. Okay, sorry, let me just adjust this, and let's say it swept the equal tops here. So it has all the three criterias. Okay, after this, price started a pullback phase and failed to tap into this zone. And instead of tapping into this zone, it created double bottoms here. So this means we have equal lows, liquidity just above the zone. So we have one more confirmation because it had all the three criteria. So inefficiency, liquidity sweep, breakout structure, and liquidity creation. So basically it has four criteria. But let's see what happens. Price created another demand zone here because it had inefficient push to the upside, breakout structure, but it didn't sweep any liquidity. And this zone has liquidity just below it. So this zone is literally liquidity. You don't want to trade like a retail traders. If you see double bottoms here and the zone just above the double bottoms, you can't open a position on that specific zone, so this zone. So let's say price is coming down. You're happy, it tapped into this zone. You're happy, you are in profit, everything is going well. But as you can see, it created the third bottom right here. So this means you will be part of the liquidity. You want to spot the liquidity before you become the liquidity. So yeah, price tapped into this zone, you're in profit, your trade is running well. But after this, the liquidity sweep will happen. You will become part of the liquidity, and the tap of this valuable zone will happen because, as I said earlier, you want to enter after the stop losses of the retail traders has been swept. Here in this demand zone, no stop losses have been swept. So you always want to aim for that zone which has liquidity above or below. So yeah, this is a really, really important rule. You always want to spot the liquidity before you become the liquidity. Just remember this and write it down. You know what? I will write it down here and you can screenshot it. This is the golden rule for the liquidity. Spot the liquidity before you become the liquidity. So see you in the next one. Okay, another scenario. Let's say price is moving in an uptrend, creating series of higher highs and higher lows. And we have this valuable demand zone here. It swept liquidity, broke structure, created inefficient movement, just like in the last scenario. Created triple bottoms just below the zone. I mean, just above the zone, sorry. But after this, price didn't come back to mitigate the zone. Instead of mitigating the zone, it started to form series of higher highs and higher lows and continue the overall trend. Let's see what can we do in this scenario. Okay, let's say price was in an uptrend, in a huge uptrend, so it's creating highs, lows, lows. So this is the 4-hour structure. This line is the 4-hour structure, 4-hour structure, 4-hour structure, and these lines are the 50-minute structure, let's say, or for the clarity, let's say this is the 50-minute structure and this is the 1-minute structure. Okay, I will just mark it here. This is the 50-minute and this is the 1-minute. Okay, so on the 1-minute, let's say price moved like this in this region, creating series of higher highs and higher lows, reached its high point, and after the high point, it created a change of character to the downside and started to form lows, a series of lower lows and lower highs until it reached some demand point here, and that demand point reversed the price and started to form a new high. Okay, but we will have supply zones over and over again, and let's say this supply zone up here is unmitigated, and price steps into this supply zone. So sorry, I will just adjust this. So yeah, I will just remove this line for you to see better. Okay, you know that this is the 15-minute structure, and these lines are the 1 minute structure. So we have this supply zone up here, but we have this demand zone down here, and we know that the trend is bullish because it's creating series of higher highs and higher lows on the 15 minute. So the trend is bullish. Price tapped into this supply zone, and after the tap of this supply zone, it reversed. Let's say it reversed, started to form lows and highs. We can expect the sweep of this liquidity on the downside movement, so the reversal. So after price reverse on the supply zone, it can sweep the liquidity from this region and tap into this valuable demand zone because it has all the 3 or 4 criteria, because it's swept liquidity, created liquidity, breakout structure, and inefficient movement. So price has a really great chance to mitigate this demand zone and sweep the liquidity from this region. After the tap of this demand zone, you can wait for a confirmation entry. We will talk about confirmation entries in the next unit. So you can wait for a confirmation entry here. And after this, you can hop in a trade, and you have a really great chance for price to create a new high and continue the overall trend, which is bullish in this case, as I said, because it's creating highs, lows on the 15 minute. So yeah, this is how can we use actually the liquidity for your advantage. Okay, let's see the last scenario. Price is moving in an uptrend here again, creating series of higher highs and higher lows, as you can see. I will just explain this on the drawn lines. So let's say price created a demand zone here. After the demand zone has been created, price created liquidity for that demand zone. But price actually broke structures to the upside and formed liquidity also. So we have a triple bottoms here and 3 breakout structures to the upside. How can we identify if it's just a liquidity sweep or a change of character? So if price breaks this low point, that could be easily a change of character because this low has been created a new high here. And if this low point breaks, that can be change of character here and the change in the trend. Okay, but how can we identify if it's really a change of character or just a liquidity sweep? So let's say we have this demand zone right here. Let me just change color. Okay, let's say we have this demand zone right here and this liquidity line. Okay, sorry. So this liquidity line. Price has a really, really great chance to sweep this liquidity. As I said, we always want to wait for a liquidity sweep this liquidity, tap into this demand zone. And after a tap of this demand zone, it can reverse the price again and create a new high. As you can see on the live chart, I brought an example for this. Price created a low, the first bottom of the liquidity. After it created a break of structure to the upside, after it created another bottom, break of structure to the upside. And after this, it swept the liquidity from this region and tapped into some demand zone on the 15-minute here. So yeah, this isn't a change of character to the downside. It is just a liquidity sweep because liquidity sweeps will happen with huge wicks. That's the difference between the liquidity sweeps and the change of character. If you see a liquidity sweep, it will happen with a huge wick. So here's a candle and the wick will look like this, or this on the upside. So yeah. Okay, as you can see, price started to form series of higher highs and higher lows, created liquidity here again, and with a huge wick, it swept the liquidity from that region too. So yeah, if you're on the 4-hour chart, you will want to see the 4-hour candle to create a huge wick. If you're a 15-minute chart, you want to see a 15-minute candle to create a huge wick and the liquidity sweep. If you are in the 5-minute and the 1-minute chart, you want to see a 5-minute or a 1-minute candle to create the liquidity sweep. But we will talk about this later more precisely.